Hello students, teachers, parents, history nerds. Hello everybody and welcome to Nutshelled History, where we lay out the facts, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We continue with our Early America series with Monroe's Presidency and Everyday Life. Check the description down below for a fill-in-the-blanks worksheet that goes along with this video. I just ask that you like and subscribe. I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Okay, let's go. After the War of 1812, the Republicans controlled the government. Republican James Monroe's huge victory in the 1816 presidential election crushed the Federalist Party. The Federalists were seen as unpatriotic because of their lack of support for the war. To promote national unity, Monroe toured parts of the country. He was warmly greeted even in states that had not voted for him in 1816. A Boston newspaper called the new spirit of national unity the era of good feelings, and the name has been used to describe Monroe's 2 terms as president. After 1815, 3 gifted members of Congress emerged. Henry Clay of Kentucky represented the West. We will hear his name a few times in this series. John C. Calhoun of South Carolina spoke for Southern interests. Daniel Webster of Massachusetts was a leading politician for the Northeast. The charter of the First National Bank had run out in 1811. As a result, state banks had begun to make loans and issue money, driving prices up. The Democratic Republicans established a second Bank of the United States to stabilize the economy. During the war, Americans had set up their own mills and factories to supply goods that were not being brought in from Britain because of the blockade. With the war's end, however, goods from long-established British manufacturers began to pour into the United States. This destroyed many of the new American businesses. Congress responded by passing the Tariff of 1816, which taxed foreign goods like cloth, iron, leather goods, and paper. These protective tariffs were popular in the North, where they protected local manufacturing businesses. However, the South had little manufacturing, so people resented the high tariffs that made goods more expensive. The South felt that the North was gaining wealth, and they were paying for it. Henry Clay defended high tariffs in a plan he called the American System. He said the money from tariffs could pay to build infrastructure, such as bridges, canals, and roads. Clay argued that this would help all regions. Southerners rejected the American system and continued to oppose the tariffs. Between 1819 and 1824, the Supreme Court issued 3 major rulings that affected the economy and increased the power of the federal government. In McCulloch v. Maryland, the court ruled that a state could not pass a law that violates a federal law, that states had no power to interfere with federal institutions, and that the federal government had the right to pass laws deemed necessary and proper. This ruling protected the Second Bank of the United States from being taxed by the state of Maryland. In Gibbons v. Ogden, the court blocked New York State from giving a steamboat company the sole right to carry passengers on the Hudson River. Because the trip involved trade between 2 or more states, it was considered interstate commerce. Only Congress can regulate such trade. In Trustees of Dartmouth College v. Woodward, the court protected private contracts. This ruling prevented states from interfering in private businesses. Spain's control of its American colonies was also fading. The people of Latin America were inspired by the American and French revolutions to seek independence. In 1810, Father Miguel Hidalgo led an unsuccessful rebellion against Spanish rule in Mexico. But in 1820, there was another revolution, forcing Spain to grant Mexico independence in 1821. Mexico became a republic in 1823. A series of revolutions in South America freed colonies from Spanish rule. By 1825, most of Latin America had thrown off European rule. However, colonists had little experience with self-rule. In many cases, powerful leaders took advantage of the chaos and seized control, making it impossible for the new nations to establish democratic rule. Spain also realized that it could not defend Florida from the United States, so it decided to give up the territory. In exchange for $5 million, Spain gave up Florida to the United States in the Adams-Oens Treaty of 1819. In a message to Congress in 1823, the president stated what is now called the Monroe Doctrine. The United States would not allow European nations to create new American colonies or to interfere with the free nations of Latin America. Any attempt to do so would be considered dangerous to our peace and safety. In truth, the United States was not yet strong enough to block European action. Only the British Navy could do that, and Britain supported the statement. As U.S. power grew, however, the Monroe Doctrine boosted the influence of the United States in the region and influenced U.S. foreign policy for a century. For most Americans, life was still largely rural. Churches were the center of social life, and thanks to new state constitutions that required the separation of church and state, Catholics and Jews were able to practice their religions. Free African Americans also established their own schools. Education was usually a home-based, private practice, but the establishment of public libraries made books more accessible. Unique American forms of art, music, and literature began to emerge as America developed its own culture. All right, let's recap. Without Federalists getting in the way, the period after the War of 1812 is known as the Era of Good Feelings. It wasn't good feelings for everyone, though. The influx of British goods after the war threatened northern factories, so Congress levied tariffs on British goods. The South didn't like that because they felt that the North was benefiting at their cost. Henry Clay said that the infrastructure that they would pay for would tie America together, the American system. The Supreme Court made the states have less than good feelings by strengthening the national government with a series of court decisions. Spain had less than good feelings because its American empire was shrinking, and the Monroe Doctrine said no take-backs. And there you have it, folks. That's Monroe's presidency and everyday life nutshelled. Thanks for stopping by Nutshelled History. Throw down some good feelings on the like and subscribe buttons down below. And share some good feelings in the comments down below.